Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Social Work, SOSW, Bachelor of Social Work, BFSW, Semester I, BSW, 121 Professional Social Work and its Values, Block-1 Introduction to Professional Social Work, Unit-1 Introduction to Social Work Concepts 1.0 Objectives. In this unit, we concentrate on the various concepts which are used in connection with professional social work training and practice, clarify their meaning and present their definition. By the end of this unit, you should be able to know the meaning of various concepts such as charity, voluntary action, shramdan, social reform, social movements and social network. Define these concepts, distinguish between these and other related concepts wherever necessary, and understand the significance of these concepts for social work teaching and practice. 1.1 Introduction. Social work is relatively a newer and socially less recognized profession, mainly because of its inability to demonstrate the immediate visibility of results that follow from its practice. The most important reason behind this inability is the use of social relationships as the major medium of professional practice help, which by their very nature are intangible. Social work is an emerging profession in India and there is a lot of confusion in respect of various terms which are used while teaching in classroom. Doing research in social work and practicing the profession with people in need in society. Since effective professional practice demands clarity in terms of the varied kinds of concepts used, it is necessary to clarify and define them and point out the distinction between similar concepts used in social work. The same concepts are used in other social sciences like sociology and psychology, from which social work has heavily borrowed. Some of the noteworthy concepts dealt with here are charity, shramdan, social action, social defense, social justice, social movement, social network, social policy, social reform, social security, social services, social welfare and social work. 1.2 Charity, voluntary action and shramdan. Charity. There are some misconceptions about social work. Common people consider even charity, particularly the giving of alms, as social work, which is not correct. The term charity as defined in the Webster's Encyclopedic Unabridged Dictionary, 1996, 248, refers to charitable actions as alms-giving or performing other benevolent actions of any sort for the needy with no expectation of material reward. Most of the organized religions all over the world have advocated charity as a great virtue which their followers must possess. Reinforcing this, Mujib, 1968, 324, writes, every religion enjoins charity, and some forms of charity is an essential element in the practice of all religions. The Hindu religion sanctifies charity. The earliest reference to charity can be traced in the Rig Veda, the oldest, wherein the god Rudra is highly praised for giving many gifts. Encouraging charity, it mentions 1.13.2 May the one who gives shine most. All the Hindu scriptures unequivocally advocate the virtue of charity, which must be unfailingly practiced by every householder. Charity has been glorified as an exercise in spirituality and socially sanctioned as a duty to be performed by every Hindu to pay the rinas, varied kinds of debts which every Hindu owes. However, it has also been cautioned that charity should be given to a person who deserves it. The Atri Sanhita clearly mentions that an undeserving person who accepts help commits theft, and the persons who help him/her support the theft. Generally, men including Brahmins, scholars seriously devoted to studies, and disabled were considered to be the eligible persons. the Old Testament has laid a great stress on charity. Jews have been enjoined upon to obey God and to care for the needy. Love for the neighbors has been advocated as an important duty in Judaism. Christianity advocates brotherly love. Suppose that a man has the worldly goods he needs and sees his brother go in want. If he steels his heart against his brother, how can we say that the love of God dwells in him? Jesus Christ himself said, I was hungry and you gave me food, thirsty and you gave me drink, I was stranger and you brought me home, naked and you clothed me, sick and you cared for me, and a prisoner and you came to me. Believe me, when you did it to one of the least of my brethren, you did it to me. Matthai, 1968, 3:18-22. In Islam, charity has been depicted as equivalent to prayer. Mujib, 1968, 3:24, writes, as every Muslim must pray, he must also, if he possessed the prescribed minimum of property, pay a contribution to the public treasury, Bait al-Mal. Apart from obligatory payments, generosity and hospitality, feeding of the hungry and provision of amenities for travelers have been imposed on the Muslim as obligations that are almost as binding as any religious injunction. On special occasion, Muslims distribute sweets, fruits and even money among their friends, relatives and poor. The giving of alms is one of the 5 basic tenets of Islam, and waqf, dedication of property for purposes of charity, is an important part of Muslim law. Zukat, fitrah, sadqah or khairat are noteworthy concepts of Islam related to charity. Under Zukat, every pious Muslim is required to spend 1/40th of his annual income on charity. It is the God's portion. Under fitrah, those who possess gold, jewelry, house or any kind of valuable assets are required to pay 2.5% of their savings, which is distributed among poor and needy. In addition, each Emily is required to distribute 3.5 kilograms of wheat for each of its members among indigent. Sadaqah or khairat is the alms which everyone can give according to his/her wish or desire. Even on important ceremonies like aqiqah, hair shaving of child for the first time, a devout Muslim must sacrifice 1 goat in case of a girl or 2 goats in case of a boy and divide the meat thereof into 3 parts and distribute 1 part among poor and 1 part among relatives, retaining only 1 part to be consumed by family members. Even the sale proceeds of skins of goats and cash or silver equal to the weight of hair of the child should be distributed among poor Zoroastrians. The followers of Zarathustra and commonly known as Parsis in India believe in Ushta Ahmai Yahmai Ushta Kahmachit Gatha Ushtavati, which means happiness unto him who renders happiness unto others. Panchayats and anjumans of Parsis, as also Parsi trusts, have done a commendable work in the area of helping the poor and needy. Desai, 1968, 328-34. Sikh history is replete with innumerable examples of voluntary service to the entire humanity, irrespective of any sect or cult for God's pleasure or divine grace. Guru Nanak Dev has clearly said, "He who serves others in the world getteth a seat in the court of God." Guru Govind Singh issued an edict wide which every Sikh is required to part with 1/10, daswandh, of his income in favor of his community. Singh, 1968, 334-340. Buddhism and Jainism both have advocated compassion for the poor and needy, which is all source of charity. Charity, whether in cash or kind, is different from social work in the sense that the former results in temporary relief and makes the recipient dependent on the donor, whereas the latter, though having its roots in charity, develops the capacity for self-help. among people either by rendering service to them or by introducing required changes in the obstructive and depriving social system. Voluntary action, compassion towards suffering brethren is an inherent part of human nature. It is an innate human urge. It is because of this basic impulse that people have always come forward on their own will to provide help to persons in distress. The human needs can be broadly categorized as physical, psychological, social and spiritual. People do not want their bare survival only, but they also want love, affection, autonomy, respect, recognition, self-actualization. Generally, it is out of their natural feeling of altruism, devotion and dedication to serve the entire mankind or at least the members of their own society that people extend their helping hand to the needy. Usually this is not done necessarily with absolute selflessness. Voluntary action is quite often done with varied intention like desire to go to heaven after death or to get rid of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth by attaining salvation through charity or other forms of help to the oppressed and suppressed in society. However, they generally do not expect any tangible material returns for the charity which they give, or help they provide or services they render. Voluntary action is that action which is done by people voluntarily, out of natural feeling of compassion and concern for well-being of others without expecting any kind of tangible material gains in lieu of the work done. In other words, it is direct or indirect help or service which people individually or collectively provide out of their feeling of compassion to assist others, especially those who are the victims of poverty, ill health, idleness, illiteracy, suppression, oppression, abuse, exploitation, etc. Voluntary action is mainly characterized by 1. Innate urge to help others and promote their well-being in all possible ways, not necessarily monetarily. 2. Absence of any kind of expectation of any material gains in lieu of the help given. 3. Sense of social concern and orientation of helping others in need. 4. Faith in the highest virtue of service to humanity. 5. Belief in the primacy of one's duty over one's rights. There may be a number of sources which may reinforce voluntarism. Moral religious discourse, the exemplary acts of some philanthropist charitable organization, some dreadful incident or tragedy. Morals taught by parents, teachers, seers, and other role models may motivate a person to engage in some kind of altruistic actions. Development of spirituality due to realization of the mortality of this physical world and eternity of its Creator may create a desire to sacrifice and renounce material possessions and for promoting the well-being of others. Shramdan, voluntary manual labor. There is a widespread tendency among people to label Shramdan as social work, which is incorrect and misleading. Shramdan has its origin in Hindi. It consists of two words, sharam, manual labor, and dan, donation. Taken together, they mean the act of doing labor voluntarily to promote collective good through some kind of work. For building or construction or plantation. The important characteristics of Shramdan are I. Manual labor, 2. Voluntariness, 3. Collective and cooperative endeavors, and 4. Promotion of some common public good or protection of some common public interest. There has been a very healthy tradition of working together voluntarily for furthering people's well-being throughout the world, especially in India. In the early stages of social evolution, life was very hard. People not only had to face the vagaries of weather, but also to protect themselves from all kinds of dangers, particularly from beasts and poisonous reptiles. No sophisticated tools and equipments were available. And people, for their very survival, had to work together by contributing their labor voluntarily. Voluntary manual labor was essential for all kinds of work like breaking of rocks or clearing of shrubs for construction of narrow passages through dense forests, hunting of animals to eat their flesh, building of improvised bridges over rivers or construction of embankments or bunds on the banks of rivers or digging of wells, or ponds for drinking water or construction of shelters alongside the roads for the travelers to take rest. This kind of arrangement continued very well until the community living, characterized by the feeling of oneness with or belongingness to the community, was in existence, and until the state as an agency of society took the responsibility of promoting people's well-being through performance of varied kinds of works. Even now, there are innumerable examples where aggregates of people work together by contributing their manual labor to bring about improvement in the conditions of people's life and living, maybe through construction of roads, canals, irrigation channels, drains, etc. Even the government has launched such programs like National Service Scheme, National Cadet Corps, etc., wherein educated youth are required to contribute their manual labor voluntarily to better the conditions of people in the areas in which they decide to work, particularly with a view to promoting the dignity of labor and inculcating it as a part of youth's personality. Undoubtedly, Shramdan is of immense significance for promoting socio-economic development. Shramadhan is a vast reservoir of voluntary manual labor which finally culminates into many kinds of concrete achievements. However, it is different from social work not only in terms of objectives but also in terms of methods and techniques as well as philosophy. Shramdan has the objective of getting some concrete work accomplished, particularly by voluntary pooling of the manual labor of aggregates of people who do not expect anything in return for whatever public good they undertake. Its underlying philosophy is the duty of every person to contribute his/her best to promote the well-being of fellow brethren. It also has a significant role in holistic, multifaceted and integrated development of people's personality as also of the entire social system. Unlike Shramdan, social work is a specialized kind of activity which for its effective performance requires a typical body of knowledge as well as technical skills. Social work aims at improving the social functioning of persons in society or bringing about desired changes in the social system so that everyone in society gets opportunities for optimum realization of one's potentials. It is based on democratic and humanitarian philosophy which reinforces the values of equality, justice, liberty and fraternity and which promotes the well-being of all. 1.3 Social movement and social reform. Social movement. The term social movement covers various forms of collective action aimed at social reorganization. In a democratic setup, social movements are very common and natural. However, the term social movement is generally used differently by different social activists, political scientists, sociologists, etc. Diani, 1992, goes to the extent of saying even an implicit, empirical agreement about the use of the term is largely missing. In general, social movements are not highly institutionalized and arise from spontaneous social protest directed at specific or widespread grievances. Abercrombie, Hill, Turner, 1986, 197. According to M.C. Adam et al., 1988, cited in Veena Das, ed., 2003, 1525, the term social movements refers to a diverse spectrum of collective, social and political phenomena, as heterogeneous as revolutions, religious sects, political organizations or single-issue campaigns, or anti-colonial resistance and resistance against inroads by alleged outsiders. In the words of Madden, 1995, 1253, a social movement is an organized attempt by a number of people united by a shared belief to effect or resist changes in the existing social order by non-institutionalized means. According to Fuchs and Lincolnbach, 2003, 1525. A social movement takes the form of collective self-organization for the attainment of social recognition and the assertion of rights or existential interests hitherto denied to a group or category of people. It engages in resistance against the threat or groups or category of people's rights and basis of existence. We may define social movement here as any deliberate and collective action done by people without any established institutional structure to bring about changes in society, which they think are desirable and required for enabling them to lead a decent and dignified life in accordance with their commonly cherished normative standards. The salient features of a social movement. 1. Existence of some sort of discontentment with the existing social structure and system or need for protecting and promoting the thus far neglected interests or fascination for introducing some innovations or desire to get recognition for a distinct social identity which people might have enjoyed for long time and which they may feel is in danger. 2. Awareness of and commitment and devotion to the common cause and some kind of organization for launching collective action through mobilization of like-minded people's efforts. 3. Initiation of one or the other kind of commonly agreed upon activity according to some formulated or chalked out plan as per decided program schedule. 4. Some kind of reference to ideas of autonomy, equity, human dignity, human rights, social recognition, removal of social evils, etc. 5. Varied kinds of manifestations such as revolt, rebellion, reform or revolution and employment of methods like protest, demonstration, strike, gherao, buns, etc. 6. Unstable and transitory nature and non-visibility of any distinct point of beginning or termination of social movement. There may be a multiplicity of factors due to which a movement may start. There may be some evils like sati, untouchability, dowry, deforestation, child labor, bonded labor, etc. that may act as a source of generation of discontentment with the existing situation. There may be some dominant groups, sections of people such as organized groups of criminals, mafia dons, etc., which may be abusing or exploiting people and subjecting them to unnecessary harassment. There may be some religion sect which may be passing derogatory remarks against or trying to subjugate some other religion sect, generally in minority. There may be some ideology that may be against the basic tenets of democracy, the most widely cherished system of governance in contemporary society, or against the widely accepted values and norms. There may be some dominant culture that may openly condemn some other different cultures and may try to endanger their basic existence. There may be the followers of a particular religion or culture which may in a very subtle manner try to change their original nature or culture. There may be some issue of current interest related to empowerment of people or sustainable development or preservation of distinct cultural identity, promotion of unity and solidarity among people and strengthening of social integration or inculcation of patriotism or protection of interests of their region which people may think to be of vital importance for their decent and dignified living. However, it has always to be borne in mind that spread of education and rapid advancements in science and technology, particularly information technology, have accelerated the emergence of social movements in different areas, which are significant for leading life with decency, respect and freedom. All social movements motivate their participants to actively engage themselves in the correct analysis and interpretation of situation, how it promotes or thwarts their common collective interests and what kind of actions, including establishment of an organization, are required to be undertaken for their furtherance in the best possible manner so that the future may be as they visualize it to be. Social movement may not necessarily succeed, but those who are involved in it make their best possible efforts to achieve the stipulated objectives. However, once they succeed in attaining the desired results, they terminate, paving the way for other movements to emerge which may be relevant for the existing needs of society. It is certain that the social movements will continue to remain until such political, economic, educational and social institutions are created as may guarantee the promotion of development of right kind of humans. Social movements are not able to radically overhaul the entire social fabric, nor do they permit the exploitative and abusive social systems to continue in their traditional form. Then, as observed by T.K. Umman, 1977-16, social movements provide the stage for confluence between the old and new values and structures. Social movements are highly significant for social work because they bring about desired change in the social structure, eradicate social evils and prevent abuse and exploitation, and all these are the prime concerns of social work. Social reform in every society. Cultural degeneration sets in at some point of time, particularly when its followers forget the basic purpose behind varied kinds of customs and traditions. They continue to religiously observe various rites and rituals associated with them, mainly because their forefathers have been performing them. Consequently, they develop varied kinds of social evils which hamper the personality development and obstruct effective social functioning. For example, in India the open Varna system degenerated into closed caste system which further deteriorated into untouchability, uncivility and even unapproachability. When social evils start manifesting themselves on a very large scale and become fairly widespread, some enlightened people start giving a serious thought to them and devise measures to get rid of them, and it is at this juncture that social reform begins. The term reform, according to Webster's Encyclopedic Unabridged Dictionary, 1996-06, means the improvement or amendment of what is wrong, corrupt, unsatisfactory, etc. Social reform thus, broadly speaking, refers to eradication of immoral, unhealthy, corrupt, and wrong practices which thwart human and social development. According to M.S. Gore, 1987-83, social reform involves a deliberate effort to bring about a change in social attitudes, culturally defined role expectations and actual patterns of behavior of people in a desired direction through processes of persuasion and public education. We may define here social reform as the deliberately made collective and non-violent efforts made by like-minded people who commonly believe and feel that certain practices prevalent in their society are obstructing social progress and retarding human development, which aim at eradicating them only, without radically overhauling the entire social system which they, on the whole, consider to be satisfactory. Major characteristics of social reform: 1. Existence of some social evil impeding proper human growth and social development. 2. Collective and focused efforts deliberately made by people to mitigate and eradicate social evil. 3. Overall satisfaction with the generally prevailing situations in society and existence of belief that the overall system is not to be overthrown. 4. Employment of non-violent methods and means to bring about desired changes in the area in which evil practices exist, and use of such measures like persuasion, conscientization, change of heart, etc., which may lead to eradication of existing evils. It will be proper here to understand the similarities as well as differences between social reform and revolt. The most striking similarities are 1. In case of both of them, dissatisfaction with the existing conditions in society is noticeable. 2. Both of them try to bring about desired changes in societal conditions so that human and social development may be promoted. 3. In case of reform as well as revolt, leaders appeal to the inactive sleeping members of the community to wake up, accord legitimacy and join their cause. 4. Both of them may, if necessary, make use of violent means and method. As for the differences between the two, relatively more noteworthy are 1. Social. Reformers are more or less satisfied with the overall conditions that exist in society and their discontentment remains confined only up to certain specific areas of social life. On the contrary, in case of revolt, there is generally marked dissatisfaction with the existing social structure and system and basic values which regulate them, and people who take the lead want to prepare and organize people to overthrow them. 2. While social reformers approach and influence the powers that be to formulate such policies and enact such laws as may lead to introduction of desired changes in certain areas of social life which they consider to be undesirable and to exert baneful effects on personal and social development, revolutionaries want to radically overhaul, and if possible, even to overthrow, in some cases, the existing social structure and system which, in their opinion, is basically degenerated, not necessarily always through bloodshed. Pimpali in Sharma, ed. 1987, 2-3. Study of social reform is important for professional social workers because they are concerned with improving the social functioning of people and introducing desired changes in social structure and system. These objectives cannot be attained till varied kinds of social evils and unhealthy and undesirable usages and practices continue to exist in society. Social workers generally, because of their basic faith in non-revolutionary approach for introducing desired changes in society, want to bring about social changes to begin with by doing away with varied kinds of social evils like dowry, sati, parda, child labor, bonded labor, etc. through social reforms. 1.4 Social network. A social network is any articulated pattern of connection in the social relations of individuals, groups and other collectivities. The origin of the term may be traced back to 1930s when many social scientists started using the terms like web, fabric, etc. in the context of society. Basically borrowed from textiles, these metaphors were used to indicate the interweaving and interlocking nature and character of social relationships, which people in society are forced to establish in order to satisfy their varied kinds of needs. These words were initially used by Radcliffe Brown in anthropology and Jacob L. Moreno in social psychology. It was Moreno who propounded the idea of depicting a social network with the help of a diagram called sociogram. It was in the 1950s that a distinct methodology of social network came into being. George Homan, in the year 1951, formalized the network metaphor. In social work, the term network is used in a specific sense to refer to an interconnection or web or fabric of various like-minded voluntary organizations, VO, community-based organizations, CBO, non-government organizations, NGO, engaged in the pursuit of similar objectives, created with a view to working together in a coordinated and effective manner. In the contemporary social setup in which the state is gradually withdrawing from the social sector, leaving it primarily to the voluntary organizations to work, there has been a mushroom growth in their numbers, and many of them singly are quite weak, and it has become essential now that social networks are created to increase their effectiveness through their webbed existence and coordinated functioning. Important characteristics of social network as used in the social work are as under 1. Like-minded NGOs was CBOs working in a particular field in specified areas, which may be as limited as a town city or as broad as the entire world, come together to constitute a network of their own. 2. These NGOs was CBOs agree to work for certain well-specified issues or concerns. 3. These NGOs was CBOs form social network to protect and promote their common interests and thereby to strengthen themselves through mutual reinforcement. 4. These NGOs was CBOs contribute to create a fund to enable their social network to function. 5. Social networks undertake a wide variety of programs and activities and perform a multiplicity of functions to protect and promote the genuine interests of member NGOs was CBOs with special reference to the commonly cherished concerns. 6. These NGOs was CBOs agree to abide by a commonly evolved and agreed upon code of conduct while performing their functions as also while relating to other partners of the social network or to other NGOs was CBOs or government departments or clients or people in the community. These social networks are highly useful for social work because they provide organized platforms for mobilization of required resources and formation of healthy public opinion and promotion of well-being of people, especially the weaker and vulnerable sections of society, help in promoting socio-economic development and assist in speedy eradication of social evils which impede human development and effective functioning of people. 1.5 Summary. In this chapter we have seen some of the basic concepts related to social work. We have seen the differences and similarities, if any, between charity, voluntary action and shramdan. Charity refers to providing aid in material terms or otherwise to needy individuals. Most religions advocated the practice of charity for obtaining religious merit. Voluntary action is done by individuals for improving the conditions of others without expecting any tangible benefit in return. It may be motivated by natural feeling of concern and compassion. However, nowadays we often observe that many people who claim to engage in voluntary action are guided by less social motives. Shramdan is contributing manual labor free of cost for doing those activities which will result in common good. Social movements are collective actions outside an established institutional structure to resolve a common problem. Closely related to the concept of social movement is social reform, which means bringing about changes in the practices of people to eradicate social evils. You must have noticed that there is considerable difference in the way a social work professional uses these words and the way a layman uses them. You being a student should learn to use them as a professional would use them. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates and we will see you with the next chapter.